I'm Debbie Schlesinger-Hellman. I am one of the co-founders of the Year of Joy, along with Andrew Cannon, as I said, is from the happiest country in the world, Finland. We developed the Year of Joy, figuring that we needed to do a little something to build joy around the world as we were sitting in sort of a precarious place for the past many years. So we went on this adventure and we developed a recipe for joy, and then decided we would just do a year of joy and invite these wonderful joy experts. And we have so many of them on with us today. We're so lucky to share with us on a weekly basis on our free online platform, the Year of Joy. And when we figure out how to get our chat to everyone, Sherry's going to put that link into the chat box so that everyone can see it. If we don't get to that point, it is yearofjoy.live, pretty simple. You can go on there if you haven't already. First thing you'll be able to do once you join is take our joy barometer. It's actually a measurement tool that measures your joy level. Kind of cool to see where you sit on that given day, how much effort you put into certain areas of joy, what's important to you, and what you might want to work on. So we have done a number of weeks already, but you can join the Year of Joy at any time. We have a library with all that has happened to date and a lot coming up. And to give you an idea, we just finished, Karen Golden was one of our experts. She did a week on storytelling that was wonderful. We had Denise Stoller-Cox talking about community and belonging. And I know coming up, we have Shannon Hernandez exploring passion projects. Really excited to hear about how to find your passion and your passion projects. But today, we are so lucky to have a group of experts talking about kindness and the positive impact that has on other people and actually then on the world, right? So I would love to introduce our experts for today on our panel. Andrew then will run sort of a panel program asking some questions. And we have with us our joy reporter, Shari Elise, who is going to do the Q&A at the end. So we have lots of stuff happening. We're thrilled that you're here, and we thank you so much for joining us. So without further ado, let me give you a little intro. We have with us Brad Aronson. Hey, Brad. Brad authored the feel-good national bestseller, Humankind, Changing the World One Small Act at a Time. NPR said, "You're going to love this book." And Forbes magazine called it the most uplifting and life-affirming book in years. All book proceeds go to Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Now, how about that? Thank you, Brad. Along with Brad, we have Mariah Edgington. Hey, Mariah, how are you? Mariah is a retired critical care ER night flight nurse, transformational coach, a published author, professional speaker, TEDx presenter. Mariah is neurodivergent with ADHD and dyslexia. She mentors others like her, giving them tools to live to their fullest potential. Mariah co-authored Journey Well, You Are More Than Enough book series with her husband, Byron. Thanks, Mariah. It's lovely to have you here. Then we have Randy McNeely. Randy is the executive producer of the Kindness Factor podcast and streaming human interest series, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of kindness. He is also the author of the Kindness Givers Formula 2.0, a 5-step program to reaching hearts, inspiring change, and healing the world through love. Randy, it's wonderful to have you with us. And last, but of course not least, we have Linda Cohen. Linda Cohen is also known as the Kindness Catalyst. She is a professional speaker and consultant. Linda's second book, The Economy of Kindness, How Kindness Transforms Your Bottom Line, was published in 2021. Linda's an active member of the National Speakers Association, a devoted Earl Grey tea drinker, and she lives in Portland with her husband of 30 years. Linda, welcome. Thank you all for being here. And I would love to pass this off to Andrew. Andrew, if you're still on, I sure hope so, to get us started.
the chat working, and I found the setting, but it seems that it might not be activated for everybody still, unfortunately. So sorry about that. But welcome everybody who's joined us for the webinar, and obviously welcome to our wonderful group of panelists, all kindness experts, and what a wonderful, joyful topic we're going to discuss today. And I'm looking forward personally to hearing all your great tips. But before we get into that, I would really like to understand what you all think really is the power of kindness. Why have you chosen this? Of all the words in the English language, why did you all choose kindness as your thing? So maybe, Brad, if you can kick off the conversation with what is the power of kindness?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. As far as kindness goes, I feel like kindness gives every single one of us the power to change a life. And that includes the power to change our own lives. And we don't need a huge number of resources to do it. We don't need an army of helpers or $1 million. We just need ourselves. Think about writing someone a thank you note, a note of gratitude. We feel amazing when we write that note, and we're making someone's day. And that kindness is contagious. Like, I was lucky to see how contagious it is when we do an act of kindness. When I was gathering stories for my book, for example, there's Rita Scavone. She was really upset about how many hungry people she saw in Philadelphia. So she made an extra portion of dinner every night to give to someone who was hungry. And her church found out, and they joined her. And then other groups joined her. And it turned into a movement that's provided over 16 million meals in Philadelphia. And then there's 6-year-old Gabriel, who asked people to perform an act of kindness to turn a dark day into a day of light. And now November 3rd is Gabriel's Day of Kindness, an international day of kindness where there's acts from across the world that are getting done and getting reported on their website. And to me, that's the power of kindness. Each one of us can take a small step, and that could change someone's life, and it could have this amazing ripple effect. And I want to turn it over, Linda, now to hear kind of your thoughts on that, please.
Thank you so much, Brad. And thanks. I'm excited to be with all of you today. When I think about the power of kindness, and I'm going to just say my word was not kindness. My word started as mitzvahs. In Judaism, there's a word mitzvahs, which means a good deed, an act of kindness, but they're also commandments. I actually changed to kindness because I thought it was more of a universal word, and I wanted to be able to talk to people who were not just of the Jewish faith. So I'll just add that in terms of where I started. But the idea of the power of kindness, for me, there is kindness everywhere all the time. Right now, I believe there is so much kindness in the world, and I think part of what we do as kindness catalysts, or people who are sharing this, is help amplify that instead of living in fear, living in anxiety. Unfortunately, I think we have a lot of that playing in the universe as well right now. And I know from the work that I get to do every day, there's also a tremendous amount of this kindness happening. So what does it do? It helps us connect to humanity. It helps us really live in joy. And sometimes the kindness will bring joy. Sometimes it will bring tears. So there is such a huge power in kindness. And when we step into that, whether we're the giver or the receiver, the witness or the observer, you said 2 words that I use a lot, Brad, which are it's contagious and there's often a ripple effect. And so that's why I love being in this space, in this place. I feel very much that this was my calling and so grateful to be part of it. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Mariah. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Linda. And thank you, Andrew and Debbie and Sherry, for making this happen. The Year of Joy is an amazing thing, and kindness, we know, is a big part of it. We become joyful. And I like what you just said, Linda, how it doesn't always happen that you're extending that joy with kindness. But what it does extend is, like Brad said, where we become kinder to ourselves when we hold kindness for others. And something that I encourage people to do, just like abundance is all around us, people focus on lack a lot of times instead of abundance. It's the same thing with kindness. When we look for it and see it, it's amazing how often you can see a random act of kindness happen. And when some small little random act of kindness, say a little kid runs up and he holds the door for some 80-year-old person who's having trouble, and the people around them see that act of kindness, it elevates all of us, and it changes the chemistry in our brains. We all know that. We're very attuned to that now because people talk about brain science and kindness and how that changes things. So look for those random acts of kindness, perform those random acts of kindness, and spread that kindness around, and it will elevate more people. And so, Randy, I'd like to pass this off to you to hear your thoughts.
My goodness, it's interesting following all three of you. You've made such wonderful comments, and I appreciate what you just said, Mariah, and what you shared, Linda and Brad. You know, for me, I focus on kindness because kindness is love in action. It's love delivered. And it's really love that builds pathways to our hearts. It builds bridges to our hearts and can touch hearts and minds and lives in ways that nothing else can reach. You know, no one else can reach, but love can reach those things. And so that's why I focus on kindness, because it when we give kindness away, what we're really doing is giving love away. And, you know, if there ever was a time in the history of this world that we need greater love, it's now. And just recently, the U.S. Surgeon General came out with a report talking about an epidemic of loneliness and isolation caused by massive social, yes, I can say that word, disconnection. And amazingly, you know, they give a framework of 6 steps of things to do to repair that. And the 6th step, the pillar, is create a culture of connection. And underneath that, there's 4 things to do. Be kind is the first step underneath that. Show respect, give service, and be committed to one another. For me, in reality, all of those things are circumscribed under kindness, because all those things are direct actions that show value and appreciation for people. And so I firmly believe that we're all brothers and sisters, and that if we look at each other through the lens of love and do everything we can to show value and appreciation through kindness, then, you know, that's going to make a big, big, big difference. I turn the time over back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love where this is going. I love, Randy, what you said about connectedness, you know, reading the Surgeon General's report on loneliness and how that really is, you know, one of the major afflictions in our society. And so maybe to you, Linda, you know, what do you see in sort of your work and your life about how people are using kindness to help build connection?
I was actually going to talk about connection. I am feeling, when, you know, I wasn't traveling much, as maybe many people weren't during the beginning of the pandemic, unless your job required you to be out in the workplace. But I feel like there's this need for connection. When I'm on the road now, I feel like the Uber drivers, the waitresses, whoever I am meeting, wherever I am, I'm hearing stories. I'm seeing people pull out their phones, show me their kids, tell me where they've been. There's just this sense that people really, really want to connect. And I'm leaning into that. I am absolutely loving that possibility of making those connections and learning about each other. I mean, I think when we are siloed and we don't know each other, we assume that's a different person. There's a they and I'm a me, and we're not the same. And I, like you, Randy, I loved what you said. I wrote it down. Kindness is love delivered. It absolutely is I see you, I'm present with you, and we're humans, and we have the same things that we want out of life, and so we're connected. So I'd say connections is absolutely one of the easiest ways that you can be kind. And maybe it's just smiling at someone. I'll tell you, that's what I'm actually hearing in workplaces too. Please just smile at me. Like, not necessarily that I need more money or I need more time off. Like, just notice me, just see me, you know, whatever your role is in the organization. And I have no idea who I'm supposed to share with next. So you'll have to tell us after who gets the ball next.
Whoever wants to talk at this point,
Okay.
it's free for all. Anybody want to chime in on what Linda said? Go for it.
Could I just throw something out there? You know, it doesn't take, and this is something that I'm just going to make a plug for Brad's book, because I love his book. I've read it twice now, and actually I read it twice and listened to it twice. And I love his book. You know, one of the things that he makes such a big point of, and that is so true, is it doesn't take big actions to make a big impact. Simple actions can make a huge impact. I'll just share a quick story. I was traveling. I was in Louisiana, and I had just gotten to the hotel. I'd gotten to my room and was dropped my things off, and my colleague and I were going to go to dinner. On the way back I was heading back to the lobby, and I saw one of the ladies in the hotel coming toward me. And I'm not a shy guy. I'll talk to anybody, but every once in a while I just get nervous about talking to somebody. I had the feeling that I should say something to her, thanking her for her work, but I almost didn't do it. Then I just forced myself. And I said, thank you for all the good work that you do. Thank you for making the hotel stay here more comfortable for me. And what she said next just blew me away. She got tears in her eyes and she looked at me and she said, thank you ever so much. I've worked here for 4 years and no one has ever thanked me before. That simple action, I can guarantee you, not because I'm a great or a marvelous person or anything, but that simple action, she will not forget that. Because in that moment, we connected heart to heart. And that's the beautiful thing about kindness, because it is love delivered. It allows you to connect heart to heart in simple ways that you wouldn't be able to connect otherwise.
Can I add something? I know I've already shared, but that idea of why do we stop ourselves from doing that little act of kindness? What was in your head, Randy? Because you're not the only one. I know sometimes people feel, oh, what is this really going to matter? And so they stop themselves from doing that act of kindness. So.
Are you asking me what? I
Yeah.
don't know. I just, every once in a while, this happens to me. I'll just get nervous about saying something to somebody. And I don't know why, because I'm normally not shy. If I don't come across that way, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. But just, it was one of those moments where I had a little bit of an anxiety and was nervous about talking to somebody that I didn't know. But I forced myself to, because 9 times out of 10, when I do say something, it makes a difference. Not that I'm great or anything. Again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But I found that when you open your mouth and you're willing to say something kind to people, that they appreciate it.
Yeah. Randy and Linda, and Brad, thank you for your book. It's amazing. People need to look at that for sure. One thing that I've found, and it's really interesting that you say that, Randy and Linda, because I blogged about this or posted about this a long time ago and said the exact same thing. Lean into your intuition. If you get a hunch that you should do something, don't ignore that, especially now. And this was during the pandemic that I wrote this, but even post-pandemic, act on it. If it's something crazy like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to them in 9 years, they're going to think I'm nuts. And what happened for me was that I wrote, please reach out when you have that impetus to do that. Just don't ignore it, even though it feels weird, because you never know where that's going to go. And what happened for me was I had somebody direct message me after I'd said, okay, guys, just send them a quick text message or drop them a line or something. This person wrote me back and said they had done this, wrote a text. The person wrote them back and said they were thinking of taking their life that day, but didn't, because of that one simple text message that person had an intuition and acted on it. And he told me, I felt really awkward sending this. I hadn't talked to this person in years, but something just told me this was the person. And then you pushed me over the edge by saying, hey, follow up on that intuition. There's someone who needs that random act of kindness.
Brad, you're muted.
I love, what? I teach, some of my night classes are on Zoom, but I still forget to unmute myself. Mariah, I love that. And I feel like, so first off, also, thank you for all the compliments on my book. I appreciate that. I feel like being seen makes all the difference to people. So, I talked to hundreds of people who were going through really difficult times in their lives and needed like a small act of kindness to change their life. And I should say, prior to this, I was in advertising. We did a lot of market research. I can't remember any time I saw anything that everyone that we asked survey questions agreed on. But when I talked to these hundreds of people going through a difficult time, they all said that what made a huge difference was being seen. They didn't need someone to change their circumstances. They didn't need someone to tell them it would be okay. They just needed to be seen. And being seen to them was as simple as what you were saying, like getting a text message. Hey, thinking about you. Wanted to let you know I appreciate you. Or someone like dropping off cookies. Hey, I thought you liked these cookies, or texting them a joke. But it's that easy to make people know that they're seen. And I think all of us know someone who's going through a rough time. And to what you were saying, Mariah, and you're saying, Randy, like, we have to say, okay, it's not awkward to reach out to them. It's something I'm just going to do. I'm going to tell them I appreciate them. And that tends to always like help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just going to throw out there, I can't tell you how many times that my life has been blessed because I'd be thinking about somebody. I'd be going through a challenging time, and I had somebody's name pop into my head, and then out of the blue, in the next little while, that person, that specific person that I had just, their name had just popped in my head out of the blue, but that person sent me a text message or sent me an email or something and said, hey, I was just thinking about you, or gave me a call. You know, I have one friend that I swear he is tuned in to when I need a call because 3 or 4 different times he's just popped up out of the woodwork and said, hey, I was just thinking about you, thought you might need to talk about something. And it's been exactly when I needed it. And I don't believe that those are coincidences. Again,
wow,
you know,
that's amazing.
I'm not going to, you know, preach my religion or anything like that, but I believe God does take a hand in our lives and that he guides us. And that's for me, that's in my belief system. I've seen it happen so many times. I don't believe in coincidences. You know, I don't don't believe things happen just by chance.
I think, Randy, you bring up an interesting point when you talk about that kindness is a gift that gives both ways. I remember when I talked way back to an author, Richard Louis, on selflessness, and he said the funny thing that, you know, being selfless is the most selfish thing you can do. Because it actually benefits you so much. And I presume it's the same about kindness, right? So maybe Mariah, tell us how kindness can impact the person giving the act of kindness.
Well, personally, I know I was a professional nurse for many, many years. And I found that many people who would come in and were ill just had left things behind where they felt the lower they got, the lower they got. If it kind of snowballed on itself. And just by encouraging them to do, I saw it many times. I would talk to my patient before their family came in, and I would tell them these little tidbits about how this can elevate themselves and perhaps maybe it might lift their spirits. And so I'd say, go ahead and try it. You know, when your son comes in or your husband comes in, give them a little boost and see what happens. It was amazing, Andrew. It was like this little mini experiment, because almost always the patient would say, wow, you know, and the surprised look on a loved one's face was also a boost there, because they hadn't been used to hearing these kind words. And so I saw it in a personal way with my patients. I did, like I said, a kind of an impromptu little bit of a research study at the bedside. And I watched, and then I would encourage them as part of their discharge teaching to remember to pass on kindness, and that lifts them up as well.
That is amazing. That's amazing. Everybody just, again, I put in the chat that we had a problem with the chat and it can't allow the panelists to chat with you, unfortunately. It's not that I'm trying to control them. But the Q&A is open. And so put your questions in there and we get to those at the end. Shari's going to come on and lead to a Q&A. So just keep those questions flowing into the Q&A. But Linda, build a little bit on that, on the power of kindness to the giver.
All right. So two things that I thought of when you were talking about that, Mariah. One is for a recent client, I created sort of exercises they could do with their coworkers and with their, this was in a long-term care setting with their residents. So one of the things I encourage them to do is to, smile and be kind to someone they struggle with. And there was there was a great story that came out of it. There was a receptionist who did this with the person she struggled with. And she told her manager, I was kind to this person I struggled with a couple of days in a row. And lo and behold, they're now smiling back at me. And now we've kind of gotten through that. And she said, maybe it was me, So that little reminder that, if you're struggling with somebody, look inward first. And perhaps that'll be something that can benefit you. And then the second thing I thought of, and I teach this as well, because I think everyone struggles with receiving kindness, and maybe sometimes, Randy, like you said, even giving kindness, maybe we feel a little uncomfortable, or, I'm like you, Randy, like I will just talk to anybody. You probably can tell I'm a complete extrovert, drives my family crazy sometimes. But when we are slowing ourselves down from engaging with that person, I talk about compliments. Compliments are, the simplest way maybe to give an act of kindness. If you're genuine, authentic, you're not doing it for anything else, but just you're acknowledging that you see a person. So a compliment given. And then I say to people to practice as well receiving that kindness. Because when you receive the kindness, and I've seen women over the years, and I'm sure all of you have witnessed this too, somebody compliments their dress or their earrings, and they go, oh, these old thing or this old thing. Oh, I just got it. And they make an excuse for it. And I say it's the perfect time to practice just saying thank you. Thank you. And I remember I lost my dog in December of 21, a 14-year-old beautiful little spaniel we had. And I was about to give a keynote, I think 2 or 3 days later. And I was not sure I was going to be able to keep it together. It was like a family beloved dog. I talk about grief in my keynote. And so I got on, and before we even started, I hadn't even told the client that I had lost my dog. Somebody complimented me. The woman who was like my meeting planner was like, oh, I love the shirt you're wearing, Linda. And I know in that moment, it shifted for me how I stood. So I think all of us we are learners. As we provide maybe answers to these questions, we are still practicing ourselves, the giving and the receiving and how we do that. So.
That's wonderful. Brad, would you like to wrap up this part of the conversation just by your thoughts on kindness and giving and receiving?
Can I wrap it up with a 1-minute exercise?
Absolutely.
All right. So this was inspired. Like everyone's saying this, and I was like, we can do this. So I'm going to ask everyone, just think of someone you're thankful to have in your life. Maybe they did something small. Maybe they did something huge. Let's think of that person. Now I want you to send them a quick text message. This is 15 seconds. So it should be like, thanks for being a great friend. I love you. Thanks for being there for me. I'm going to do it as well. This is when my wife realizes that I'm in a presentation of some sort when she gets one of these texts.
You have to send it to someone else besides your wife. Think of someone else.
That's a great idea. I'll send it to multiple people.
Good.
In 15 seconds. All right, so we're going to try to get that out in the next few seconds. And we can't see on the chat everyone, but I could see the panelists chat. If you want us to chat, if you don't mind putting in the chat, and I'll tell people what you said, kind of how that made you feel. And I mean, for me, it felt great to share that compliment with someone. And at the same time, I made someone's day. And I do a lot of public speaking, and I usually do this exercise. I see it made me feel fantastic. Mariah said, right, you felt great making someone's day. And made Andrew glow. We feel great when we make someone's day, and we are making their day. And when I talk to people, when I give these talks, people say, well, I was kind of feeling weird about sending that text. Are they going to think I did something? Does my wife going to think I did something wrong because I'm sending her a compliment? Or it's kind of weird. And by the end of the conversation, because I have people do this at the beginning, it's usually an hour-long talk. I'm like, what happened? They're like, this person sent me the nicest text back. They were so happy. It made their day. So that's the power of kindness. We can make someone's day at the same time that it has this residual effect of making our day, and it's easy and it's beautiful. Andrew, thank you for humoring me with that exercise.
That was brilliant. No, that's the most wonderful segue into the second part of our discussion today, because we've sort of, I think, inspired people to think about what is the power of kindness. And now, you're all such wonderful experts. You've all done a lot of research. You've all been out in the field practicing this every day, teaching people this. And I'm sure everybody would like to know what your personal favorite tips are for how you can actually empower joy in your life by practicing kindness. And we're going to give each of you approximately 5 minutes to share your favorite stories and tips and tricks on how people can practice kindness in their lives. And Randy, you get the honor of starting this one, and I'm going to go off camera for this part.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. And thanks again to everyone for all the great comments. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. I mentioned earlier, I believe in the brotherhood and sisterhood. I believe that we're all brothers and sisters. And I love people. I care about people a lot. And so because I have that belief system that I have, that's what has driven me to create what I call the Kindness Givers Formula. It's a simple formula. It's 5 steps that can help anyone who will implement them to ingrain a daily habit of intentional kindness giving. First thing is, every day, wake up with a mindset. I wake up, look in the mirror, and think, I am going to be a kindness giver today. I'm going to embrace a mindset that allows me to see and think of other people as fellow human beings, and a heart set that allows me to feel and believe that they deserve to be valued and appreciated. And I'm going to have that mindset to start the day. And then I'm going to take a few minutes. The second step is take a few minutes and think about where you're going to be, who you're going to be with, what you're going to be doing that day, and plan out simple ways. And I'm going to say potential ways to be kind in those situations. I say potential because we all know that none of us, most of the time our day never goes exactly as planned, but think of potential ways in those situations that you can be kind. Third step is go forward after that planning, do your activities and have your kindness antennas up, looking for simple acts of kindness that you can do and act on them. Act on as many as you can within reason, and excuse me, it'll make a difference for you and a difference for the people that you serve in those opportunities. And then fourth, invite and encourage other people to do the same thing. Kindness, like I think it was Brad that said earlier, kindness is contagious, and it really is. And if people see how happy you are, and excuse me, hold on just 1 second, I just got a tickle in my throat.
You want one of us to take over? You want to grab some water, Randy? We'll give you your time.
I'm okay. I don't know what's going on. I've got a little bit of allergies today. I was going to say, but invite and encourage other people to do the same thing. You can share the joy that you're receiving because of kindness giving, and because people are giving kindness back to you. Like Andrew was saying earlier, it always boomerangs. It always does. And it'll come back. And the final step, the final tip that I would give, the final step in my formula is to take the time at the end of the day and reflect on any experiences that you've had with kindness and write them down. Now, why do I invite you to do that? First of all, every time we write something down, it has a way of ingraining it more fully into our hearts and into our minds. That's the first thing. But the second reason is what I call the rainy day mental time travel gift. We can go back. If we're having a day, we all have days where we feel down or discouraged or maybe a little bit depressed or sad about something. And I have found in my own experience that if I can go back and pick up, my kindness journal, if you will, and reread about some experience that I had, it helps to rekindle that feeling of happiness and what I call the dose that came, meaning dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, the happiness drugs in our bodies that came by giving kindness or receiving kindness. And it makes a huge difference, and it picks me up. And one last thing, I'm going to share a quick story about the power of kindness that Linda made me think of earlier. One day I used to work as a janitor early morning when I was in college, a college kid trying to earn a little bit of money. I worked from 4 a.m. till 8 a.m. And I would see people come in all the time. And I always tried to just say hello, good morning, how are you, and pay little compliments. And one day this lady came in and I could tell she just didn't, she was normally pretty chipper, but she just did not seem like herself that morning. And she, I don't even remember, what she was wearing, but I told her, you really look nice today. I'm happy to see you. And I didn't think anything else of it. I went on my way, kept cleaning and doing stuff like that. Well, later I got done and we went back to our little cubby hole where we had to check every day to see if our boss had left us notes. And there was an envelope in there. And I opened up the envelope and it had a note and said, "Thank you so much for your small compliment. I was having a terrible morning and your compliment brightened my day. It totally changed my attitude." And then she gave me some BYU, what I call BYU bucks. There's 10 of them. I could go spend dollars in the bookstore. So that came around, that again, it boomeranged back, but I wasn't looking for that. But just those simple things every day, look for them. You can find them. You will be amazed when you start looking how many things are just around you, right around you, and you weren't noticing them before. Now I'm trying to remember, do I turn it back to Mariah?
Thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate that. Love hearing your stories. That is awesome. And being in community with kindness elevates my feeling as well. I'm confident that the people out there watching feel that level rise when we hear the stories, especially like that. One thing that I found early on was that when people feel down themselves, they don't feel like they have enough to give out. And so something that I've taught for a long time is to try to build your own self up as well. When we're kind to ourselves, then we can give it out. And something that I found with the population and the people that I work with is that we tend to have brought along baggage with us that no longer serves us. And when we can provide kindness to, number one, ourselves, this isn't something that's common. We frequently have been taught over the years that we need to do this or do that and not look at ourselves because that's selfish. But I can firmly say that it's been proven that self-care is not selfish. And in that light, something that I teach people is something I call the I am exercise. And this is where we're kind to ourselves. Instead of saying negative things after I am, we say positive. And the sooner we're able to learn to flip that from, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm so dumb or I'm so this, to drop those words out because they're not serving anyone. And we bring that out in our lives with a positive affirmation. So I created something I called the I am alphabet. And because we know whatever follows I am follows you or follows me. And we start with, I am aware that my thoughts create my reality. I am brave. I am confident. I am determined, or whatever your positive words that follow that. And I'm pleased to say that at this point, because this is my story here, Randy, of something that happened because of this. I had someone write to me and say, I wish my mother-in-law could have this because she needs it so much. And I said, great, pass it on. And she said, well, she doesn't speak English. And boom, international community right here, right? Right now, it's being translated into about 24 languages. It's already in 13 languages. And so each person, I'm going to drop this, I'll drop this in the chat here, Sherry, and maybe you can share that. It's free, it's a download. And if you have a different language and you want to translate it into your language, please feel free to do so and get it to people who need it. We need to pass that on so we can build up ourselves and know that we are more than worthy then we can generate kindness to others. So Andrew, once again, I thank you for this, Andrew and Debbie and Sherry, for all of this ability to reach people. Thank you. And I'm going to
You're more than welcome, Mariah.
Off to Linda.
Oh, it's so amazing to be with other people who are speaking the same language because, of course, several things that both of you said were what I had also written down. I think my first tip might be to be present. I know that we are all living with our iPhones or our phones, we're glued to them. I was at the airport this week and I looked down the row and just every single person holding onto their phone, So being present might mean putting down your phone to connect with other human beings. That synchronicity piece that you all talked about, that we were talking about before. My father was he taught me before he passed away about synchronicity. And so I have lived in that space for the last 15 years, not to take for granted those experiences, those hunches, that intuition, Mariah, that you said. And I think we should cultivate that. If you have that little hunch, that little idea, if your heart is starting to it's funny, my heart is starting to palpitate a teeny little bit more, lean into that. I think that can be so powerful. You started talking about self-care. I have realized in the last 5 years that I've been doing this work more with corporate audiences, how important self-care is in the workplace. And I talk about some of the tools that I use. So I'm not a meditator who sits on a cushion and puts my hands up and, meditates in that way. I typically use a guided meditation. I have found that Insight timer on my phone is fantastic. I know there's Calm and there's Headspace. Guided meditation I do in the morning. Typically I wake up in the morning and I encourage other people. I have a spouse, so he's right next to me. So I have noise canceling headphones that I can put on. I keep my eye shades on. Usually that's how I wake up in the morning, is by doing some kind of a guided meditation. And for me, that works. And I give permission to people to think about the ways that doing some self-care in your day might work, even if it doesn't look like what you've heard you have to do, sitting on a cushion with your back erect. That doesn't work for me. It's really uncomfortable. I've tried it. So self-care, I completely agree with you, Mariah, is not selfish. I use the analogy of putting the oxygen mask on yourself before you attend to anyone else. And, and I think that, I know that I have someone on the call today and she and I talked about napping, because I was a full-time stay-at-home mom for years. And I love taking that little 15-minute, 30-minute nap before I would go pick up my kids. And I recently posted that on LinkedIn with a big "I love nap" sign, because I wanted to give permission to people to say, I speak a lot in healthcare, long-term care, industries that are 24/7. And I know that the self-care for those busy leaders does not exist. They don't have enough time in their day, they believe, to take a break. So a nap seems out of the question. So then we just talk about breathing. You walk around every day with that breathing as a possibility. Take a deep breath, learning how to ground yourself and do a loving kindness meditation for a couple of minutes. I know I'm going off on all of my self-care practices, but I think it's really the piece that is so important now, because we haven't given ourselves permission in this. Certainly in the American culture, it's always like, oh, I've got this, I can do it, I'm going to power through. And you know what? I think we're hearing and seeing now that the mental health of our world is suffering because of that. So guess what? I knew I was going to be on this panel today. I have work to do, and I'm going to get my massage this afternoon, because I didn't get one this month because I've been traveling and she had a cancellation. So I'm doing what I practice. And that's what we all have to do. So I'll pass it on to you, Brad. Those are some of my tips and ideas.
Thank you. I love that, because I feel like kindness starts with ourselves. If we're not kind to ourselves, it's really, really hard to be kind to others. And I want to share a quick story. I was a counselor at a Ronald McDonald camp, and it's a camp for kids with cancer and their siblings. It's an overnight camp. And I remember my first year there, I had a bunk full of kids, and the kids who were sick needed to go get their medicine. And throughout the day, different times during the day. And generally they hated taking their medicine. It made their hair fall out, made them feel nauseous, just made them feel sick. So no one wanted to take their medicine. So the first night there, I get the group of kids together who need their night medicines, and we go up to the wellness center, and it is pitch black, and there's just this giant disco ball spinning around. The music is crazy loud, and the wellness staff says, "You can't have your medicine. You can't have your medicine unless you dance for it." And the kids started dancing, and they're having fun. And the next night, they were all like, "Oh, like we can't wait to go get our medicine." And I thought, like, personally, I just thought it was something that would be unfun, and that's just how it was. And thank heavens, the medical staff said, like, why not? Why can't it be fun? And we see how important mindset is in so many different ways throughout our lives. I mean, just our son, my son did this experiment where he had half a cup of water, and he'd go around asking people, like, what is this? And some people would say, oh, it's half full. Some people would say it's half empty. My mom was a crazy pessimist, was like, it's empty. Like, what good is there in half a cup of water? It was the exact same thing, but everyone saw it differently. And we have the power to decide how we see things. And sometimes we might get skewed by what's in front of us, right? I talked at the beginning about the news, how there's like all this animosity and controversy and war. And you just look at it and think, oh my goodness, like, how can I make a difference? Like, to what Randy said, I think if every morning we wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to make someone's day today. And then if we look for a chance to do it, we could find it in that compliment that we give, in that text message that we send, in checking in on someone, right? So it's a mindset. And I think if we want to integrate it into our daily lives, wake up every day and say, all right, I'm going to make someone's day today, and just look for those opportunities to give a compliment to someone who's going to be presenting about their sweater, or whatever we find in those opportunities. And that is how we make the world a better place. And it's also how we're kind to ourselves. Like, if we look for those opportunities, we'll find them. And those are my last remarks. Thank you for again, thank you for having me on the panel, and I'll turn it back to you, Andrew.
All right. Well, I'm going to be really quick, and I'm just going to say thank you all so much. What I really loved about this, apart from your words, is your smiles and the energy that you've given to this hour. So, your expertise, great, fantastic. Your energy and your smiles, double fantastic. Thank you for that. And I'm going to hand you over to somebody who smiles a lot, Shari, who's going to lead us through the Q&A. So there you go. There's a smile. So go for it, Shari.
Yes. So I wanted to invite our attendees, our viewers, to drop some questions into the Q&A if you have for any of our panelists here. And while we wait for the thousands of questions that are about to come in, I'm going to go ahead and ask one of my own. Well, first, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this. So many inspiring ideas, just awakenings for all of us about how simple it is. And I just wanted to share this, and I don't know if any of you saw it, that I posted recently, that a UCLA sociologist did research on kindness around 5 continents. And they found that there is a kind act happening every 2 minutes across these continents. And they're talking about the simple things, as you all mentioned. They were videoing it. So they were seeing things like doors being held, or someone passing a glass of water, or someone helping somebody lift something up. And so it's happening all around, as you all have said, and that but what would you say to the people who talk about the unkindness in the world, or somebody that is actually doing something unkind? How do you respond to either that person that feels that, the world is unkind, or even to that person that is being unkind? If anyone wants to jump in.
Yeah. Will you put that research in the chat? I would love to see that, Sherry, and I didn't see your post about it.
Absolutely.
I would say that, when you have someone who is unkind or sees the world as all negative, they're probably hurting. That's probably someone who's actually struggling themselves, and they might need some extra kindness. So we call them the porcupines in my line of work. They're prickly. That may be your coworker who they just are a porcupine. And maybe you sit down with them and you ask what's going on, and you communicate with them. And it depends what the relationship is. But, I think about people who are hurting that's what they've learned. And so they continue to hurt other people. And if we go back to Randy's metaphor, that kindness is love in action. When you are kind to someone, I feel teary, like just saying this, because I know that there are people who are hurting right now. We have been in a global pandemic. I share with my audiences that little act of kindness that you do for someone could be the nicest thing that's happened to them today. You have no idea where other people are. And everyone we meet right now could be shouldering burdens. So whether they're being mean or unkind, help them, be a little extra kind to them, and see if you can bring them around to this idea that kindness is love in action.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Just extend more kindness, right? Anybody else have something that you wanted to share?
Let's throw something out. I worked with a gentleman that had a tendency to, if you did anything that upset him, he wouldn't talk to you for like weeks. I just, and I can't even remember what happened originally, but I upset this colleague with some little thing I said or did, and I don't even remember what it was, but for the longest while he wouldn't talk to me, but I just kept saying hi and good morning every day and I happened to speak Spanish, and we were working with someone, and there was a Spanish person who came and asked him a question, and he didn't know how to answer it, and he knew I spoke Spanish. And so he came and asked me, can you understand him? Can you talk with him and help him out? And I said, sure. And we ended up talking in Spanish, and I was able to answer his question, and he got what he needed, and he went his way. Well, the next day, this person came up to me and said, it's really cool that you're able to speak to him in Spanish. And I said, well, I really appreciate you coming to asking me, but I just want you to know I told him he had gone to the right guy with you, because you know just about everything there is to know about this stuff. He just didn't know how to speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. So after that, since then, we had a good rapport again. It was just, it was hard for a while, but just by being persistent and continuing to try to be kind and to show that I wasn't going to show animosity toward him just because of how he was acting, that calmness and that willingness to persist ended up, eventually winning out. So
powerful. Go ahead. Oh, did someone start talking and I cut you off? Sorry, that was unkind.
That's probably me coughing a little bit again. I'm sorry.
No. Did you have something further to say on that before? No. Okay.
Nope.
Sorry. I was, gonna mention, I think the power of being kind when someone is being unkind is that it allows them to be able to reflect on their own actions and the things that they've said, because as soon as we're unkind, would you agree that then that person who starts becoming defensive, and they're never able to actually clearly see their own unkind actions, because then it's like, someone's been unkind to them.
And if you're unkind to them, they're seeing what they expect to see, and it kind of feeds into that. I think we all have an opportunity to change the conversation. And I think about workplaces where often at lunch, the thing that people bond over is like what's bugging them at work. Like, oh my goodness, can you believe this happened, blah, blah, blah. And you could change that conversation and talk about what you love and make sure you're talking about all the awesome things you see. And, I feel the same way sometimes, our son is 13 and he drives my wife and I crazy. And I'm like, well, let's just look and catch him doing something right and be like, Jack, great job on that. And it changes the conversation. So, it goes back to kind of what I was saying. I think if we look for those opportunities to try to change the conversation, to what you're saying, Shari, it might help them reflect and see, oh, you know what? I didn't think about it that way.
I love that. So interestingly enough, when MySpace, y'all remember MySpace back in the day, I had gotten this, I woke up to this really unkind, mean thing to me from a 16-year-old, like out of nowhere, that I didn't know, and was commenting on some of my content. And this was my first awareness. Right in that moment, I could have said, what is wrong with you? Didn't your parents teach you better? And what came to me, I simply wrote back, sending you love and peace. And the next day I woke up and in my inbox was a message from him that said, hey, sorry about that. I was just being a dumb kid. And it was in that moment that I thought, oh my God, I could have gone off on him and he would have never seen the error of his way. But the fact that I extended, as Randy said, love, in kindness, he was able to actually see, what a little punk or what a kid that he was being. Right. So it's so powerful. I think all of us to just extend that. So